From the Doctor of Thugonomics to the Never Seen 17 and everything in between, John Cena has had some of his greatest matches in WWE history at SummerSlam, and in this video, I'm going to rank them. Every single John Cena SummerSlam match from the worst to the best. Let's do this.
Ladies and gentlemen.
What's up, world? It's your boy Tommy on the spot for Watchalong Wrestling, and I'm a wrestling content creator from Long Island, New York. Thanks so much for checking out this video. You know, as the year continues to go and the months go by and the dates go by, we are nearing the end of John Cena's farewell tour, where he will be wrapping up his in-ring career at the end of 2025. And so to celebrate here on the channel, I'm going to go back and I'm going to rank each one of John Cena's matches at every one of the big WWE shows. I'd thought about doing this earlier in the year in anticipation of these shows, but I really think this is a good kind of review of these different shows. And since SummerSlam is so top of mind, I figured I would start with there, and then later on we'll get in maybe to the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, and thereafter. So for me, I know a lot of people think Bret Hart is Mr. SummerSlam, and with good reason, whether it be his great match against the British Bulldog at SummerSlam 92, Owen Hart in the cage at SummerSlam 94, or the incredible and underrated match he had with The Undertaker to conclude SummerSlam 1997. He's had some incredible matches through the years at SummerSlam. But in all honesty, I think John Cena is close. This guy may very well be Mr. SummerSlam, and I actually think he has had his greatest collection of matches at SummerSlam. 16 total matches from 2004 through 2025. And, you know, in looking at these, you really kind of see the evolution of the John Cena character, both in-ring wise, but also character-wise. You know, when he starts out here, he's really fresh off of becoming a babyface toward the end of 2023 at SummerSlam 2004, and continues to just grow into the face of the company year after year. And so we'll talk through that as we go through. Of course, when I look at matches, I always start with the video package that comes right before the main event, and then I go all the way through the final part of the show. So anything that happens after the main event, I consider that part of the main event. So if he's in a main event and the match ends up going past that, that may either help or hinder the match itself. Obviously, these are just my reviews, right? Just my rankings. If you disagree, let me know where I got it wrong in the comment section. Or maybe you want to say, you know what, Tots, kudos to you, man. You nailed it. Let me know what your thoughts about these are. Some live biases. I always want to throw these out here. I have attended 5 of these SummerSlam shows here that we're going to talk about in person, so I will make mention of those as we go along. But let's get ourselves started here, ranking from worst to best. And of course, I usually will lean towards storyline development, historical significance, and obviously some in-ring work there as well in coming through some of my rankings. But again, they're just my rankings. So let's get into it, starting with number 16 and the match I consider the worst. And it is SummerSlam 2004, his very first match that he had at SummerSlam against Booker T. And I will say this before we even continue. I don't think there's a bad match on this particular countdown of matches. Normally there's 1 or 2 clunkers. I think all of these have some sort of charm to them, and there's something really, in a way, really nice about these matches as we continue. Even this match here, it's early on in Cena's career. They just started. This is the first of a match, a best-of-5 series for the United States Championship between Cena and Booker T. I really think that if you're going to be doing a best-of-5 series, a best-of-7 series, it should culminate at SummerSlam. It shouldn't be the start of that type of series. And it's interesting because they did the same thing some 12 years later with Sheamus and Cesaro, which eventually led to them becoming the Bar. But it didn't make any sense to me why you would start with the best-of-5 series here at SummerSlam. Match is relatively short. It's fine for what it is, but it leaves a little bit to be desired. Number 15, SummerSlam 2009, Randy Orton versus John Cena. Now, this is the second match that Randy Orton and John Cena have with each other at SummerSlam. And I'm going to get to the other match they had way later on down in the countdown, because that match was very fresh. This match here in 2009, not fresh between the two. I think we had seen it many times. And the match itself is just, it's clunky. They continue to do the restart of the match where, hey, now there's no DQs. Now there's no countouts. And it's just weird. I don't know why they did that. I don't think at this stage you had to really continue this feud on that had been going on for, honestly, on and off for 2 years between these two. So a little long in the tooth here. This one also left a lot to be desired. And I think this was almost a bit of a changing of the guard in 2009. They'd go back to Cena for several years. But in 2009, summer of 2009, they were really starting to experiment, if you will, with the idea of John Cena no longer maybe being the face of the company, and instead that guy being Jeff Hardy. Now, I know that sounds crazy to think, but summer of 2009, Jeff Hardy, he always says he was more popular than Obama, and he really was the face of the company. He's the main event of this show against CM Punk, so I guess they figured, hey, they really didn't need to go too crazy with Cena and Orton. Why blow that match off? They could just bring it back, and they did continue to bring it back several more times in the rest of 2009. But this one here, especially for a big event like SummerSlam, you hate a non-finish. This isn't a non-finish, but it's so much silliness going on throughout, it really takes away from the particular finish of the match, and that's why it's way down here at number 15 on our countdown. Number 14, SummerSlam 2017, John Cena versus Baron Corbin. For those who know me, I am a Baron Corbin guy. I think he's highly underrated. I think he has had many solid matches throughout his career, even toward the end of his WWE career when he was working in NXT. I think he was doing some of his best work, and it's a shame that, unfortunately, WWE let him go. He had a long, sustained run, a very good run, I thought. But in 2017, Baron Corbin was on his way to really being a top guy in WWE. He's fresh off of getting the Money in the Bank briefcase and them ending Money in the Bank with him winning that match, holding the briefcase up high. And so going into this match here against Cena, it was actually a match I was really looking forward to at SummerSlam 2017. And while that did take place in Brooklyn, by the way, that is one of the two that took place in Brooklyn that I did not get tickets for. Waited too long, so I missed this live. But for some reason, right before this show, they took the briefcase off Corbin. He cashes in on Jinder Mahal. He fails. And so Corbin loses the briefcase. And with that, a ton of momentum as well. Cena beats him pretty handily. This match kicks off the show. I really wanted to like it going back. I wanted to have a reason to move it up on the countdown because, again, I'm a Corbin guy. But unfortunately, just was not meant to be. This match is short, and Cena pretty much dominates the match and wins in grand fashion, moving on. And I did not think at this stage in 2017, sounds crazy 8 years later with Cena such a part of the show, but 2017, he's already starting at the summer of 17. He's already won the 16th championship at the beginning of that year, lost it at Elimination Chamber, and he's already starting to wind down his in-ring career. So I did not think he needed to beat Corbin, certainly not as handily as he did. He does come out, it's kind of cute. He comes out, the crowd's booing him. John Cena sucks. He's doing the whole, orchestra type deal. That's kind of cool. But again, it didn't do too much for me. I do appreciate, though, that Cena enjoyed his match with Corbin so much that he even paid tribute to Corbin most recently at the at the Clash in Paris show in his match with Logan Paul. I thought that was very cool. So glad to know he enjoyed working with Corbin, but it is number 14 on our list. Moving right along here, SummerSlam 2010. Now, this is a match that when I ranked my SummerSlam main event rankings, I had ranked toward the bottom for the era in which it took place, and it is, of course, Team Nexus versus Team Cena. The reason why I ranked it so low is because of the finish. The finish on this is just, it's brutal. It's terrible. It is, I know a lot of the times, LOL, Cena wins, people say that. I didn't have as big a problem with Cena winning so many of these matches like he had done throughout his career, but this is the one that always sticks out to me. The Nexus was a really hot act coming in the beginning of summer in 2010, and they had an opportunity, certainly at a minimum, to create a big star in Wade Barrett, if not create 7 big stars with each member of the Nexus. Now, I'm not saying Michael Tarver was going to be ever main eventing WrestleMania, but they could have been solid mid-card acts, and instead, this comes down to Justin Gabriel, who had gotten the 450 splash really over, and Wade Barrett, and Cena ends up and it ends up 2-on-1, and then Cena just defeats both of them with little effort, gets rid of both of them, and ends up where it's a situation, and I never think the Nexus really recovered from that, unfortunately. Now, I will say the match itself is not bad. You go back and you watch this match, Daniel Bryan has some really good spots in this. Heath Slater looks good in this. He gets a couple of wins, knocks a couple of the Team Cena members out during this match. You have great workers in there like John Morrison and Chris Jericho and Edge, and so there's a lot of really good showcase in terms of wrestling. Doesn't have much to do with Cena, but I still say the biggest thing that should have happened here, and the biggest miss I think WWE ever made, was you should have had Daniel Bryan come back and be on Team Cena. Comes down to Daniel Bryan and John Cena against Justin Gabriel and Wade Barrett, and then Bryan turns on Cena, rejoins the Nexus, because I really think the Nexus needed Daniel Bryan in that group, and I think it could have revamped the Nexus. Huge win for them to end SummerSlam, and you've got Bryan now back in that group, the veteran the guy who can go in there and have really great matches and legitimize the group in ring. Just didn't happen, and it's a shame because I really think they could have done a lot more. Wade Barrett should have absolutely been a world champion in my opinion. So it is what it is. I do think the finish really hinders this match, but I don't think it's a bad match by any stretch. And it's actually a lot of fun if you go back and watch it all the way through. But again, the finish and it not having much to do with Cena, that's why it's number 13 on our list. Number 12, it's actually John Cena's first SummerSlam main event. He goes up here against Edge at SummerSlam 2006. Not a bad match here. As a matter of fact, it's kind of fun because SummerSlam 2006 takes place in Boston, and then they run this back the next month at Unforgiven 2006 in Toronto. So you have Cena versus Edge in Cena's hometown, and then you have Cena versus Edge in Toronto. Now, I remember going back and watching this match when it first happened. I thought it was fantastic because Edge retained. And at the time, you just absolutely thought Edge was going to lose. Now going back and watching this, I don't think it's bad. I think the matches ahead of it are all just very good, and we'll get into them here in a bit. But I just think one of the things that's really missing from this match is the lack, ever the opportunist and whatever it is, but Edge ends up using brass knuckles here. I think that takes away from the finish a bit. It almost makes it feel like he uses the brass knuckles to get a Weasley win, and in doing so, it almost makes it feel like it's a Raw main event as opposed to a SummerSlam main event. Honestly, they have an incredible TLC match the next month in Toronto with a red-hot crowd that I would have loved to have seen as the main event for this show, but because it's not, and it's this match instead, great feud, career-defining feud, I think, really for both of these guys. The first one for Cena that he really sunk his teeth into in terms of having he had some feuds with Kurt Angle and with Triple H, but this was like the first one that was like his guy that he was going against. And Edge, obviously this brought Edge up to that next level, his feud with Cena. So I like the match a lot, but it is number 12 on our list. Number 11, this is a match I went into, and I honestly feel like 2012 must have just been a year I did not watch as much WWE. I always say I never took a break. 2012, I feel like everything from 2012, other than WrestleMania 28, is a complete blur to me. And that is the case here. Main event is John Cena versus CM Punk versus The Big Show. What? What is The Big Show doing in this match? I will say it is a good match, though. It's enjoyable. It's not bad. It does not main event the show. That show is main evented by Triple H and Brock Lesnar. And it's they actually end that show with Brock Lesnar breaking Triple H's arm and them contemplating if this is the end of Triple H. Triple H would go on to wrestle for another 7 years. But in this particular match, the whole story is, this is fresh off of Raw 1000. CM Punk recently just turned heel. Still very much beloved, though. He was still a fun character that people really wanted to get behind. But I think, so he's almost a tweener in this match. And the match is really centered around Big Show dominating for like the first 10 minutes of the match. They do a little again with the start and stop, right? They end up, AJ Lee comes out and restarts the match. That was a fun deal with AJ Lee as the Raw general manager. But they do a lot to protect Big Show, and I'm not sure why. Like, you'd think going into this, he'd be the guy to maybe look the weakest there, and then he's obviously, it feels like he's in there just to kind of keep the feud going between Punk and Cena. But they do a lot to protect him, so this is a random as heck match. It's one I completely forgot about, but highly enjoyable. It is number 11 on our list. Kicking off our top 10 is SummerSlam 2014, John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. And for me, I think at this stage, every one of these top 10 matches has something about it that makes it either iconic or memorable, or it's just a great match. I think all top 10 of these matches we're going to talk about have something to contribute to that. This particular match is not a catch-as-catch-can. It's not as good as some of the matches that are coming up, but a lot of people were not expecting this match to be the way that it was. A complete squash here for Brock Lesnar destroying John Cena. And for me, this really solidifies Brock Lesnar as the Beast character. And, it really starts at WrestleMania 30, I guess, for Brock Lesnar's run here, his match with The Undertaker. And a lot of people will ask, hey, did he need to win the streak? Did he need to beat the streak? And my thing is always, he absolutely did need to end the streak. And I know Undertaker doesn't feel that way, and a lot of his fans don't feel that way. If Brock Lesnar came in and was booked properly as this assassin and the Beast and the guy who would be dominating the main event scene for WWE from the jump, right? And the guy who would go on to be that guy that led to many people being made, whether it be Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, the list goes on and on. But in order for him to get there, he had to establish himself as the Beast. Now, if he came in that way, running through everyone from the start, sure. But that's not what happened. He came in, he immediately lost to John Cena at Extreme Rules 2012. He then had his first WrestleMania back, loses to Triple H. I don't even know what we were doing there. So when it came down to him now coming to WrestleMania 30, I remember feeling like everybody had a chance to beat Taker prior to that, dating back to Batista, and then Edge, and then Triple H, and Shawn Michaels, and CM Punk, and everyone in between. I didn't think that Brock Lesnar had any chance. But when he did, Matt was like, oh man, now they have to do everything they can to build Brock Lesnar up as this unstoppable force. And that's what we have here with John Cena in a match that was initially supposed to be Daniel Bryan defending the championship against Brock Lesnar, probably in a match similar to this one, Brock Lesnar destroying Bryan and taking the championship away from him following WrestleMania and everything that came from that. Obviously, with Bryan's injuries, they gave the title back to Cena. And so instead, you get Brock Lesnar doing that to Cena during a time where nobody did that to John Cena. So I almost feel like it was even more impactful for Brock to destroy Cena than it would have been for Brock to destroy Bryan. Sure, he would have even been a more hated villain, whereas here, he's pretty much cheered for destroying Cena. But a credit to both of them, and a credit to Cena for being able to say, hey, you know what, that it makes sense for me to go and get destroyed. It would do a lot for Brock. It would do a lot for the business. Very selfless act that John Cena's done really throughout much of his career, especially in the later stages of his career, where, you know, we're about a year away from him transitioning to the U.S. title here in 2015. So at the end of the day, I do think there was also this appeal of Brock Lesnar now as your world heavyweight champion. You know, at the time, Brock had been kind of in and out, but this was the first time that he was given the world title after his comeback in 2012. So I thought that did add a little bit of extra intrigue as well. Overall, a good match. That's why it cracks our top 10. Moving right along, SummerSlam 2005, John Cena versus Chris Jericho for the World Heavyweight Championship. And this was a match that I think going in, it was no doubt John Cena was going to win. He was going to retain. He wasn't about to lose the title to Jericho. It was clear at this point that Jericho's interests had kind of waned away from wrestling a bit. He was very much getting into Fozzy. He was very soon going to be taking time off from WWE and dedicating a lot of his time fully to Fozzy. I remember if you've ever met him like around this period of time, which I was lucky enough to do, you knew like if you'd ask Jericho about Fozzy, you'd get a great opportunity to talk to him more than if you asked him about wrestling. But this match is important because I think it showed people that John Cena can really go in the ring. Now, at the time, I think there started to have a little bit of that bubbling conversation. Cena was always a fan favorite. I think throughout much of his run becoming champion, he was always kind of beloved in WWE. However, this was really the first time where I think it showed that with the right opponent, Cena can have good matches, because this is a heck of a good match. Doesn't main event despite being for the title, because this is the year they did Hulk Hogan versus Shawn Michaels, kind of the icon versus icon, one-time only type of match. That went on last, but it does get a good amount of time. And again, even though Jericho here, I do think, is on the way out, I think he's really also somebody who gets extra motivated when it comes to having that right opponent. And I think he also wanted to show that he can get Cena to that next level. The crowd is almost firmly behind Jericho, so this is in the early stages. A lot of people say that John Cena, the crowd starts turning on Cena going into WrestleMania 22 weekend, like right around that Hall of Fame where he comes out to induct William the Refrigerator Perry, and the crowd is going crazy for Triple H, is firmly against Cena, and then at WrestleMania 22, they're completely behind Triple H and booing Cena out of the building. But this match here, people are really behind Jericho, and you know, at the end of the day, Cena does get the win, never a doubt. But I think, again, this match was solid enough there. It really showed folks that with the right opponent, Cena could be that main event talent. I think this is really the first time, too. Sure, he had some good feuds early in his career, but as champion, I think this was really the first one that allowed folks to see that Cena was here to stay. Moving right along here, number 8, we're going to SummerSlam 2021, and maybe this is the first of our live bias, because of our top 8, I've been to 5 of these. Roman Reigns against John Cena at SummerSlam 2021. I love this match, and this is a testament to how good the 7 in front of it are. It's a little, I don't know how well it holds up today, because it's a lot of very slow-moving, very methodical Roman Reigns talking directly to the camera, getting everything in that he wants to get in to continue to build his character that he had gotten so used to doing during the pandemic era where there wasn't fans in attendance, and you'd be able to hear everything he said in the ring. So if you go back and watch this, he's talking to the camera a lot, and he would continue to do this a bit throughout the rest of 2021, but eventually would move away from this because honestly, I think it became a lot harder to focus so much in on that when the crowd is going nuts. But I was there for this one. Huge, a big match atmosphere. The whole weekend in Vegas, it felt like the biggest deal. John Cena versus Roman Reigns. They had the one match at No Mercy 2017, but had now, for this to really, you're just coming back with fans the month prior, and Cena returns the month prior. And Cena had, at this point in 2021, not really been a part of WWE. He had been in and out throughout much of 2019, and then after the pandemic, he obviously is a part of WrestleMania 36, and then he disappears and is not seen until he returns over a year later at Money in the Bank for the great moment where he walks out, hold on now, crowd goes completely nuts, and now he's going after Roman Reigns. They have this great video package that starts off the show where you see them coming face to face, and then the Cardi B, I know that's right, and then she goes into her song, and just gotta give you the old Dwayne Johnson goosebumps there just thinking about it. So such a great match, and you know, even though again it was slow, and I don't know like in ring wise if it's as strong as maybe some of the other matches on this show, the atmosphere is top notch. Roman, one of his first times coming out, still very new with that new music that he had. So him coming out there looking like the tribal chief at his absolute best. And then of course after the show ends, you know, you'd kind of gotten to that point where, you know, Roman tells everyone to acknowledge him after Money in the Bank. Cena comes out. This one, he goes ahead. He wins the match. He's standing in the ring, and who should come out but Brock Lesnar, who we also had not seen since the pandemic. So it's kind of like all the big pieces were coming back into play here in 2021. Weird transition year for WWE coming out of the pandemic, but I think this is really what kind of got things off on the right foot. We were going nuts, and it was so much fun. Really good match here at number 8. Move right along, number 7. SummerSlam 2008, John Cena versus Batista. This is a very good match. If you have not seen this one in a while, go back and check it out. Almost gets overlooked. I feel like a lot of the Cena-Batista matches do get overlooked. You never really hear people say, oh, Cena-Batista as being this iconic feud that they had. But I think their match at WrestleMania 26 is great, and I think this match here, SummerSlam 2008, this is the match. This might be, well, I guess probably Taker and Edge in the Hell in a Cell, but this match is really good as well. They get some good time to develop here, and it really felt like 3 years later, the two iconic faces of WWE, with Batista obviously most of the time, started on the Raw side, flipped over to SmackDown. Cena started on the SmackDown side, flipped over to Raw. They both win their first titles together on the same show at WrestleMania 21. So also felt like a really big dream match for these two to be coming together. Maybe they had some sort of interactions prior, but this is like the really first high-profile match between the two I can remember. And at the end of the day, Batista gets the win, clean as a sheet. Really good stuff. Go back and check this one out if you haven't seen it in a while. It's a great match here. Moving right along here, number 6, another one I was at, SummerSlam 2007 against Randy Orton. This is a match that, if there was a little more to the end of this match, I do think it would have been even higher on our list, certainly cracked the top 5. But the ending here leaves a lot to be desired. I can tell you that throughout this weekend here in the summer of 2007, WWE fans around the world, and certainly that weekend in New Jersey, were all about Randy Orton. This guy was so popular that when I was at the Ring of Honor show the night before SummerSlam 2007, people were chanting for Randy Orton, going nuts for him. And he wasn't even there. They were just so excited because it felt like it was going to be a changing of the guard. It's an odd show because it's obviously post-Benoit, so strange time period for WWE, but it's also a fun weekend. And if you ever want to go back and listen to the archives, me and my buddy Steve went through our entire SummerSlam 2007 experience. We did Ring of Honor. We did WWE searching for its biggest fan. There were a bunch of different parties and everything in town. It was WWE going above and beyond to try to, hey, come on back here. We're a family-friendly company, and we want everyone to be a part of things, and doing everything they can to show appreciation to the fans. And I remember going into that building, and throughout the whole building, people were going crazy for Orton. It felt like this was going to really be Orton's crowning moment in WWE to get that win over Cena, their first one-on-one pay-per-view match between the two. And Orton looks like he's about to get the win, hits the RKO. Cena pops right up. Attitude adjustment, 1, 2, 3. Horrible finish. Awful finish. I remember all of us sitting there like, no. And I remember the next night, Raw was somewhere, and we had absolutely planned on going to Raw and keeping the wrestling festivities going. And we were so deflated, A, because I don't think SummerSlam 2007 was a great show. B, our seats were up in the boondocks, way behind the Titantron. The worst seats I ever had for a pay-per-view. So bad. Couldn't see any of the entrances. And then C, just the deflation of, they're sticking with Cena. He's our guy. And you're so excited for Orton. He's this really super hot character now. And to not to be, unfortunately. And even more so, Cena doesn't even last much longer than this. He ends up getting injured. The injury that eventually he'd return at the Rumble in 2008. So you never even get the blow-off of him losing the title that I think would have really capped off what was a great year in ring for Cena. So I really think they missed the opportunity. They should have given it to Orton here at SummerSlam. But kind of was what it was. And it doesn't take away from a great match. Super hot atmosphere. Crowd in New Jersey was fantastic. But it was not to be with the main event that night in terms of the finish. All right, we've made it to our top 5. We're going to number 5, 2011. John Cena versus CM Punk. The ending to this infuriates me so much that I almost put this like out of the top 10, but it's such a good match. And, you know, you think about summer of 2011, the summer of Punk, the pipe bomb, Money in the Bank 2011 in Chicago, everything leading up to this idea that now you have 2 world champions and they're going to get on and have this big match between the 2 of them to determine who is the guy. And this is really the time now where you just felt like it was, you knew Cena was going to be with The Rock. Fine. That was going to be your match at WrestleMania 28. He already told you that in the beginning at WrestleMania in 27, so to speak, right? That was your match. So this felt like, okay, well then the title's kind of up for grabs. And you have this guy in CM Punk who lit the business on fire after the pipe bomb. He was on Hot 97, feuding with Chris Brown, and he was everywhere. It felt like being a wrestling fan was super cool. And it was like, are they going to really pull the trigger here and solidify Punk as the guy? Is he going to beat Cena? And then he does. And it's this awesome moment. And he has the title. I'll never forget, 2 Easter eggs. John Cena, when he comes out, he says to the mic, and I mentioned this in my SummerSlam main events countdown from last year. He says, prior to the show, I walked around the concourse, full gimmick. I don't know why, that just tickled me. I thought it was so funny. But yeah, so Punk gets this win. You're feeling great. And then who should show up but Kevin Nash? And he lays out Punk. And man, I hated it. At first, I didn't mind it, right? Because I was like, oh, that's weird. Why is Kevin Nash back? But I was also at the Rumble in 2011. And I'm telling you, Kevin Nash got a pop for the Millennium. So it made sense that they'd want to bring him back. But it was also a reminder, in my opinion, that sometimes you can have this moment where it's an incredible Rumble surprise and it's a cool moment. Everyone's happy to see this because they're pumped for nostalgia. But that doesn't mean you need to have an edge run. That means you could let that moment be. And 8 months later here at SummerSlam, I don't know how many people were pining to see Kevin Nash. But I thought, all right, no big deal. Cool. And then Alberto Del Rio ran down. And I was like, no, come on. And he cashes in Money in the Bank. And he wins the title. I wasn't the worst. I think the worst was yet to come in terms of those Money in the Bank cashes, but this one was pretty bad. And total deflating ending to an otherwise fantastic match. Great moment there with Punk and Cena, but well overbooked, weird finish that I don't think anybody wanted to see. Could have been cool to just have Punk have the moment and be the guy moving forward after this. Number 4 here, SummerSlam 2015 against Seth Rollins. First SummerSlam in New York. I was not there for this one. This is one that, first ever SummerSlam in Brooklyn in terms of those 4 in a row that they had, and I just couldn't get tickets. They went on sale like right after WrestleMania 31. I just got back from WrestleMania 31. I was like, all right, pump the brakes. I'll get tickets eventually. And they never dropped in price because we're astronomical. This match here is awesome. As a matter of fact, I'm willing to say I don't know if anyone is better in ring than Seth Rollins was in 2015. This guy is unbelievable. He's flying all over the place, flipping all over the place, and also can have super technical matches and was just on top of his game. He's still great now, but 2015 Seth Rollins, next level. And if you have not seen too much of his work from that era in 2015, he has banger matches throughout the entire year, and he's a super hot heel coming into this. He had won the title out of nowhere, cashing in at Money in the Bank. That's a great cash in. Cashing in at WrestleMania's main event for WrestleMania 31. And now here he comes in. He's the world champion. And at the same time, John Cena is the U.S. champion, doing the U.S. Open Challenge, having these incredible matches with anybody and anyone who cashed in, whether it was Zack Ryder, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. It became like the point of Raw was to tune in to see who would challenge Cena for that U.S. title, and then he'd get like a 20-minute match. He'd come out, he'd say, if you want some, come get some, because the champ is here. And going into the show, it was Jon Stewart was the host of SummerSlam and was also ending his run as the Daily Show host. And before that ended, he actually had Seth Rollins show up on the Daily Show and kind of egg him on from behind. It was this huge deal to have Jon Stewart involved with WWE. This wasn't now, right? Where now you have two of the biggest stars in the world in Jelly Roll and Post Malone super invested in the front row at a WWE PLE, and Travis Scott in the main event of WrestleMania and everything to that extent. But back in 2015, it wasn't that case. So to have Jon Stewart, a huge star like that, involved as the host of SummerSlam, and then he gets involved in this main event. I'll never forget my father, my late great father. One of the last memories I have talking wrestling with him was after this show, and he came in and said, "What am I hearing? Did Jon Stewart interfere in the title match last night?" And he did. He comes out, he creams Cena with the belt, with the chair. Obviously in Brooklyn and in New York, other than Royal Rumble 2008, John Cena is like absolutely hated. So he shows up and helps Rollins win. Crowd goes nuts. And rather than just that happens and then he disappears, he actually shows up on Raw the next night. Underrated show. You ever get a chance, go watch the Raw after SummerSlam 2015. That I was at. You get the debut of the new Wyatt family with Braun Strowman. You get the return of the Dudleys. You get the return of Sting as the statue. When they go to unveil Seth Rollins' statue, Sting is standing there setting up their match. Hot show. And Jon Stewart comes out and explains his actions. Says, hey, listen, I didn't want Cena to tie Ric Flair. And if Cena had won the title, he would have tied Ric Flair. And, you know, Flair goes there to kind of endorse Cena and say, hey, John, don't do that. Cena's the guy. I'm fine if Cena eventually passes me. And he would 10 years later. This is such a great match, though. So much fun. I was so pumped to see Rollins get the win. Remember, he also, at the time, injures Cena and breaks his nose with his knee. So he had the Rollins merch done up. You can't see knee. Good stuff here. This was fun. I'm surprised this didn't main event. I know the Undertaker and Brock was a big, obviously, rematch from Mania the year before. But I think this should have been the main event. Title for title. And Rollins was the guy at both belts there coming out of the show. All right, we're up to our top three. I was at all three of these. So I think all three are just incredible. I don't think you can go wrong with any of them. I'm going to go start with SummerSlam 2013. This is the main event. John Cena versus Daniel Bryan. One of my favorite matches. So much going into the show. Obviously, right at the peak of Total Divas, which my wife was a huge fan of. She was just my girlfriend at the time, but her and I had gone to the Hall of Fame for WrestleMania 29. That was the first show we had ever gone together. And then Total Divas starts, and she starts getting really into that. And so we start thinking, oh, we got to get to a show together. Turns out we have a trip planned, one of our first trips to California. And I'm like, all right, if we plan this right, we could end up going to SummerSlam 2013. And we did. And we were there for this match. And 2013, one of my favorite years ever to be a fan of WWE. I think there's a lot of not so great, but there's also a lot of really good stuff. And I think with Total Divas building up Daniel Bryan with Brie Bella and John Cena with Nikki Bella, there's a ton of intrigue of this match going into this show, and a lot that I think it just made it for such a fun time between the two of them. Match itself is really good. Cena's injured. He has the big tennis ball type bulge on his elbow. He has to go out for surgery. And when he announces it, the crowd goes nuts and does a yes chant, which is a little inappropriate but funny. Bryan is just white hot. And I was not only at this show, I was also at the show in the Barclays Center, where this is very early into me doing big time travel. Yes, I went to WrestleMania 27 and the Royal Rumble 2010 in Atlanta, but coast to coast never happened. But I was also at the Raw where John Cena chose Daniel Bryan, where he gets to choose his own opponent, and he's going for all the different wrestlers that are on the ramp. He's like, maybe I'll go with Khali. Maybe I'll call 1-800-FELLA, and I'll choose Sheamus, right? And eventually he goes and he chooses Daniel Bryan, the place explodes, and Daniel Bryan's doing the yes chant as Raw goes off the air. So good and so built so well. And another pretty frustrating cash-in at the end. Daniel Bryan gets the win. It feels like he's the guy now. He's going to be the babyface. He's going to be the face of the WWE. Cena's gone, Cena's out, and instead turns around, eats a pedigree. Hunter turns heel, Orton cashes in, and we have the Authority forming at the end of that show, and WWE going in that direction with a heel on top in Randy Orton. So, was what it was. We'd eventually get there again at WrestleMania 30, and now at this point, I'm basically, if there's a show I want to go to, I'm going to it, because I was there for this. I was at Survivor Series in 2013 in Boston, and then there I was, New Orleans, for WrestleMania 30, and away we go. So this kind of started everything for me. Super nostalgia. First show I went to with my wife, that was an actual wrestling show. About as good as it got, in the Staples Center. So much fun. Number 2, and this is like just by a hair. Like, you, any day you talk to me, I could have flipped all 3 of these. I think they're all so great. Number 2, John Cena versus AJ Styles, SummerSlam 2016. Forever, this is one of my favorite matches. I didn't ever think that this match was going to be topped, and it took almost a decade before it was. This match is so much fun, and at the time, John Cena and AJ Styles was this dream match, right? They come in, they have a match, and it goes well. AJ turns heel. But because he turns heel and he's cool as hell, and he's beating up John Cena, and he's with the club, and everyone's behind him. Like, he comes out, he's just babyface. Everybody loves the guy. He's about as cool as they come. Immediately takes WWE by storm. Goes from being the face that runs the place to the champ that runs the camp on SmackDown. This is before he eventually is given the title. But AJ Styles is just on fire here. He is just about as good of a heel as you can possibly be. And then you get John Cena, who's still, there, right? He's clearly moved down a peg in the pecking order now, right? He had not been really back into that world title picture. He kept back there once more, but I think he's now the guy who's, not necessarily as, Brock is still leading the way there. They have Roman Reigns, obviously, solidified as the top guy now for them. And then you have John Cena, who's still kind of becoming that aging veteran, which is crazy to think, because he's still doing it 10 years later. He's not even 40 yet. Like, I think they moved on way too quick from Cena. But this match here is as good as it gets, and I'll never forget the moment. At the time, Cena would pull out the AA off the top, or the AA off the second rope, and you knew if he hit that move, I think they called the Avalanche AA, if he hit that, it was done. Nobody got off that. That was only his desperation move that he'd pull out from time to time. And one of the first times, if not the first time, that somebody kicks out is right here with AJ Styles. And the place became unglued. Everyone went nuts. People were jumping up and down. One of the best moments. My brother-in-law still says it's his favorite live moment to this day. And he went to WrestleMania 40, right? He says this is still his favorite live moment, is that moment, that incredible moment where Cena hits the Avalanche AA and then AJ kicks out, and then AJ gets the win and takes the Cena armband, puts it around his head, and eventually then goes on to win the title. They had no choice. Even though Ambrose was like a fun, new, top babyface champion for them, AJ just left them no choice. He was the hottest act they had and gave him the title, and eventually Cena would get it back at Rumble 2017. But that's the story for another countdown. That leads us to number 1. Of course, it's the only John Cena 5-star match in SummerSlam history. I don't care too much for that, but I will say this one I was there live for. It was just last month. SummerSlam 2025, John Cena versus Cody Rhodes. And what a match. What a story. And for me, going into SummerSlam, and I'm going to eventually do my SummerSlam experience. It's coming. I haven't forgotten about it. A little busy, but I will certainly get that up soon. And I can tell you that going into this, the biggest thing going into SummerSlam weekend for me was the opportunity to see John Cena live. And obviously I was there in the beginning of this tour. I was at Royal Rumble, able to see his last Rumble live, his music hit, goosebumps galore, get to sit there with 5 of my closest buddies, the official Royal Rumble chat, shout out to them. And we, took that all in. It was just incredible. It was awesome. And now, with the opportunity to possibly see John Cena as a heel and to be there for that entrance, right? The never seen 17. And I was ready for it. I was excited for it. It actually had me even wanting to go to SmackDown, which I had never done the SmackDown before SummerSlam, to see Cena live. To get there, he comes out, he's heel, and he turns babyface at the SmackDown. Thank goodness we went to that show. That show, being able to be there to see Cena live, like, it built up the hype for SummerSlam that much more. It was like, all right, let's go. Like, now it was like, you got the old John Cena back against Cody. Is he really a babyface? Is it a swerve? Who knows what we're doing? And then It was. He was back as the babyface, comes out, and they do the tease, right? His music hits, and they, you know, the black John Cena comes up, the black screen comes up with the John Cena on there, and then it flips, and the lights come up, the screen gets lit up, everybody goes nuts. I'm doing Dwayne Johnson again. Everyone just goes nuts. And just an incredible moment. I was there with my wife, my daughter, my brother-in-law. I don't think we sat the entire match. I hate to be the guy who does the reactions the way that I was on that show, but I couldn't sit down if I wanted to. It was incredible. The moment where Cody hits the 3 crossroads on Cena, and everyone thinks that's it, and then Cena kicks out, and I was like, let's go. And I like Cody. I'm a Cody guy. He's one of my favorites. I think he's a great ambassador for the company. I'm so proud of how far he's come. I wanted Cena to win more than I wanted anything that night. And it looks like he's going to. And he hits the Avalanche AA right off the top. Cody kicks out. And Cody ends up winning. And it's not, you know, it's so funny. You go back, you watch Unreal. And John Cena's talking about how, like, people were booing Cody, but they didn't hate Cody. And that's 100% how it was at SummerSlam. John Cena had everyone behind him. And everyone wanted Cena to win. But when Cena didn't, when he lost, it was like, okay. And to be there for that, especially knowing what's to come here for the farewell tour, for me, I just took it as, this is it for Cena, right? I looked at how many dates were up, and I was like, this is the end of him in the world title picture. The end of him having truly meaningful storyline matches. Yes, he's going to have a few more, but there's not enough dates left to where he's going to be fighting, I don't think, for the world title. I think he's going to be involved. He'll have the dream match with Brock and a couple other ones, but I don't think it's going to be like what this was, which was just him so involved in the storylines. And they have this moment. Cody wins. Still, incredible match. Just back and forth. They got redemption from the match at Mania. Match at Mania started all of this. This was the culmination of all of it. And they have the match at Mania, and it feels almost like a little clunky. Like, I don't know, it was that great. This match was incredible. I couldn't believe Cena was pulling out Canadian Destroyers. It was awesome. And Cody ends up winning. And then you have this moment where Cena's taking the ring, and he's in there, and they let it sit for so long that I didn't think anyone was coming out, right? I really didn't. Brock's music hit. Some people unhappy. Brock's back. Fine. He comes out, though. Amazing moment, right? Hadn't seen him. Have not seen Brock in years. And he's like been persona non grata. He's not been mentioned. My wife had said it'd be great if Brock came back, and kind of threw it out there. We were like, nah, no chance. And then lo and behold, he shows up. An amazing cap to the entire match, to the weekend. And then, you know, Brock obviously lays out Cena. That looks like the next chapter of where they're going. That'll be at WrestlePalooza in Indianapolis. And Cena has this moment afterwards where he takes a really slow stroll back up the ramp, and he takes the picture of the crowd, and he's like, I have it up here, as if to let them know, hey, I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life. This meant the world to me. Be there for that. Man, that's number one for Cena's matches for me for SummerSlam. That'll probably be one of my favorite live memories ever. It's so great, and I'm so glad I was able to be there for that. That is my list, 16-1. Every John Cena SummerSlam match ranked from worst to best. Let me know where I got things wrong. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and we'll be back here to do much more of these. We'll get them all done before John Cena calls it quits here in December. Until next time, everybody, this has been Tommy on the Spot. I'll see you all in the next video.